So nearly a month ago, the Nampa School District Board of Trustees decided to remove 22 books from their library shelves at the urging of a few parents and with the agreement of 3 trustees. Books, they claimed, contained pornography. Books like The Kite Runner, The Bluest Eyes, Speak, and several others were removed as a review process was still underway for the entire list. Removed forever, or maybe not. In the May 9th meeting, the words permanently and forever were used to illustrate how adamant they were about removing these books. That finality and the sheer number of the books raised concerns for a lot of other parents and students and teachers. And we have been telling you since we first told you about this bulk ban, we have been waiting to get an explanation from the school board. Well, today, Nampa School Board President Jeff Kirkman sat down with Joe Paris and told him the removal of books, it's a complicated situation, one that is still playing out. Filled with problems, he says, which began with their former review process.
There was some kind of a process in place, but really nothing concrete that we could say, here, Mr. Parent, here's the process of how this works. And that was an issue for the trustees. We wanted to make sure that there was a really concrete process in place. And so that's why I brought it up at that work session. I was like, let's bring this to a board meeting. Let's get public input. Let's go through that open meeting of that public meeting and work through this process.
Nampa School Board Chair Jeff Kirkman says a confusing and inconsistent process for book reviews within the district helped lead to the decision to have 22 books removed from district libraries. He says his yes vote on the motion at a recent board meeting wasn't motivated by just wanting to remove books. He explains it's an intricate situation.
I can only speak to my decision, and so here was my thought process during that decision, or during that period of time after discussion. Trustee Valier made that motion to remove the books permanently, and when he added the word forever at the last second, it kind of caught me off guard. And so now I'm starting to think, when I vote, that's really going to make a difference, that forever piece. Because my thought, for me personally, was let's remove these books temporarily so that we can get a process in place. Let's just pause everything, because that's really what was going on. There was a lot of contention. Got to take them out, got to leave them in, let's take this out, take that out. Well, I just wanted to say, let's just pause. So that was what I intended to do with my vote, was remove those books, pause the process, get a really good, work with district staff, get a really good procedure in place that everybody knew, and that was what was going to happen, and then we run all these books through that process. When the word forever was added to that, that kind of changed everything at the last second. And so when the vote took place, as my thought process, well, if I vote yes, then I'm voting to remove these books forever. If I vote no, then we're not pausing the process. We're not pausing this so that we can put a good process in place. And so I voted yes because I knew, as a chair of the board, I can bring this issue back on, I can put this issue back on the agenda. And that was why I voted yes, to not ban the books forever. I voted yes to pause everything. Let's get a process in place, a procedure, good procedure, and then as a chair, I will put this back on the agenda, and boom, that's where we'll go from there. So that was my thought process behind that vote.
Well, you bring something up that I thought, I was reading in between the lines. I thought others would too. But when you say you're going to permanently ban something forever, that doesn't really mean that usually. Because if you're going to say you're permanently banning something forever, that's great, but you can always bring it back, as you mentioned, through the right process.
Forever's a long time.
Right.
And yeah, it wasn't, I can't remember the exact wording of the motion. I don't think it was banned. I mean, I know people use that word because it was remove those books. To be honest with you, there's books on that list that shouldn't be on that list. They should not be removed from the libraries. But for me at that point, to make that decision, yes, to remove those, it wasn't about specific books. It was like, here's what we know the books are in question. Let's just pull those, get a procedure in place, and then run all those books through that process, and any other books that might come up.
There's community comments that say, it appears the Nampa School Board, they don't want people talking about tough subjects like sexual assault, like rape, sex in general, violence. These are very important subjects that young adults do need to talk about. how do you balance, I guess, the complaints of some parents that are totally offended by this at all in public schools, balancing that with parents that say, I want my students, my high schoolers, to learn about the consequences of sexual assault and the signs of someone who's been affected by this?
I don't know. And I think that's a question, that's an answer you're going to get from a lot of board members. And I think that's why it's really important to continue the conversation with parents. How do you want this to look? Do you want every time a content comes up in a classroom, we have to stop everything, reach out to parents, get their input? Do we do an opt-in? Do we do an opt-out? I mean, all that. I mean, those conversations are not new, but if we did that, and I'm just thinking down the road, if we stopped everything so that we could get the parents, which again need to be involved, to ask those questions, we're never going to have the time to teach. Is it the school's responsibility to teach arithmetic, reading, writing, those core traditional school subjects? And I say yes. Is it the parents' responsibility to teach their kids about sex? I say yes. I take that responsibility with my own kids. Do they need to be exposed to all this other traumatic trauma, all this other stuff? Yes, they do, but is school that right place? Is school the right place to do that? Is the classroom the right place to do it? Yeah, I don't know where that line is, but that's why we continuously have conversations with people in the community.
I'm curious what your reaction is to bookstores and community members coming together and say, okay, these books are removed from Nampa libraries. We're stocking them in our bookstore. We're stocking them in free libraries. If you want them, we'll give it to you. Yeah, what do you think about that?
I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's fantastic. It's another opportunity for people to get the books that aren't available or may not be available in the public libraries. I know a lot of them are doing that to make a statement, which again is okay with me. I have no problem with that at all. But it's a great way for people to have access to the books they may not otherwise have access to in the libraries. So yeah, I don't have an issue with that at all.
All right, Joe, there's a lot to unpack there with what he said, but I want to start with this whole forever is forever. I mean, esto perpetua. We're supposed to believe he added this word, the trustee that made the motion, to add this word at the end of that, to remove permanently. Mm-hmm. Well, the question is, could you have just said no and then come back and put in another motion to remove the word permanently, or not include that word, I should say?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think sitting here today, absolutely. You could have said, at the moment, at the end of that meeting, you could have had, somebody come back and say, this is a bad motion. Maybe we redo this motion. That's not what happened.
No.
That's not the situation. Now, could that have been the way? Could they have voted down that motion and redone it and reworded it a different way? Absolutely. You have to remember, though, this was during the time there was such a very emotional conversation, and the only testimony we heard that day in that long meeting that you can find on YouTube, we have it linked on our website, was a parent who... Just one parent who testified, and she was very emotional about removing content, removing pornography. So if you, I guess, kind of read the room and feel the situation it's in, you can understand maybe why that trustee said permanently removed forever. But as you and I were talking during the story, when you say you're going to do something forever, you can say that, but that doesn't mean, for example, if you want to be hyperbole here, 20 years from now, you could have a new board of trustees that looks at the situation and say, well, they banned these forever. We think that was ridiculous. We're going to get rid of that.
True.
Meaning that it wasn't forever.
Okay, so at the crux of this story, though, is that process.
Right.
The process where you had an issue of like, wait a minute, we need to look at this a little deeper, a little further, differently. Mm-hmm. Where is that process now?
So Kirkman tells me that this next week, coming up on Monday, the Nampa School Board is going to get together and they're going to start that process of creating a new process to figure out what to do with the challenged books, how to go through that, how to make sure it's consistent. We've learned from other school districts the way they do that. It'll be interesting to compare notes between what Nampa ends up deciding to do. The bottom line here, though, is that Kirkman and the board agree. They need a new process. They want to get that taken care of, hopefully before the school year. They tell me today, we want to get it done as soon as possible, but it needs to be done right. And as you pointed out, language matters, and
yes,
every word matters here.
Real
quickly, we did file a public records request back on May 13th. We were asking for if any books had been challenged by parents. This school year, we wanted to get a whole list of all the complaints, all the challenges that have been sent into Nampa. Again, we sent that several weeks ago. We have not received a response yet. Under Idaho law, they are supposed to respond to us in 3 business days. So we are going to keep asking because we're curious what's on this list. No one's in trouble. We're not going after anyone. We're just curious what books were challenged and why. So
besides
we'll find
more
out.
than just one parent that showed up to the meeting.
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe.